Hello and welcome to Retro Breeze. Today I have a very special unboxing to share. This is a very interesting little device called the GameMax A380. This device was very graciously donated to me by channel viewer Mikey, who also composed the very awesome intro track to this video. Massive thanks to Mikey for sending me this device, and for everything he's done to support the channel. Please be sure to follow him on Instagram, @MikeySaxMusic, give his YouTube channel a subscribe using the link in the description, and be sure to give him some love in the comments below as well. Thank you for everything, Mikey. I truly appreciate your support. Now it's time to unbox. I decided to be different and cut the bag lengthwise because why not? And the device box was very well protected inside the package. Here's the very loud yet nondescript box, with all the translation mishaps you might expect. Notice there's no brand here. I actually have no idea who made this. I think it's a company either called Kano or maybe JKT, but that's just a guess, and this particular device is often dropshipped with custom branding, so it's really unknown who made it, at least to me. There's some vague information on the sides and the back of the box, but that's pretty much it, so let's just open it up. The device is well protected with sturdy cardboard and a plastic sleeve inside. Included is a short USB-C charger cable, a user manual, shockingly with a kind of English section, which includes a spec list, but I'll get into that a bit later. And also included is this very nice carry bag, which I really like. I've kept my A380 in it this whole time, and it's held up very nicely. And here's the A380 itself. It has a very distinct design, which takes cues from both the Panic Playdate and the Retroid Pocket 2. The banana yellow color is very playful, and it's made of a pretty unsurprising hard plastic. Actually, the build quality is immediately pretty great for the price. Notice it says Campaign A380 on the back. Now, I have no idea who or what Campaign is, and it doesn't seem to be a company. Anyway, you'll notice the dual front-facing speakers, which are undoubtedly a great addition, and they underline a very interesting 5:3 aspect ratio display. It has two full Switch-style analog sticks, the expected 4 face buttons in an Xbox layout for some reason, a D-pad that reminds me of the Razer Kishi at first glance, and stacked shoulder buttons. The sticks feel expectedly great with plenty of motion. They aren't recessed at all, and that's quite okay with me. All the face buttons feel nice too, with smooth plastic and rubber conductive switches. There's a very satisfying clunk to them. I'd say they're actually pretty heavy buttons. Start and select are nice and clicky, but very strangely positioned with select in the top corner here. The volume rocker is along the bottom with the plus on the left, and on the top we have the power and reset keys, a USB port with OTG support, and a mini HDMI for TV output. Very interesting. And on the left we'll find the SD card, which is pretty easy to get in and out. So let's power this device on and check it out. Oh, by the way, as for specs, this device uses a Rockchip RK3128 processor with 512 MB of RAM, 2 GB of onboard storage, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth support, and of course an 800 by 480 pixel resolution screen. Oh, and it runs for some reason a very stripped out version of Android 6 Marshmallow. So here we are in the default launcher. It's probably the most awkward launcher I've ever used, and selecting a system goes into an entirely different secondary menu, which has title art for most of the games. Not only is it cluttered, but it's really hard to see where your cursor is most of the time, and the main menu theme seems to clash entirely with the game list. To make matters even worse, it actually requires you to update CSV files to add your own ROMs. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Anyway, let's jump into some games here and see how the emulation performs out of the box. By the way, I don't usually talk about quote-unquote included games on retro handhelds, because I really don't think they should include any in the first place. But I will say that the A380's curated games are completely useless, with almost every single one of them in either Japanese or Chinese, and several that are just broken and don't launch. Anyway, let's just get on with it and take a look at the games. My first impressions while playing here is that the controls feel pretty darn nice. The face buttons are nice and clunky, much like a Powkiddy product. The D-pad is just okay. It's really not awful, but it could definitely do with more pivot, and it would benefit from a bit of a raise from the case. I don't use them here, but the shoulders and triggers are just super clicky switches. Overall, the A380 has a nice feeling in the hands, with pretty decent controls. Oh, and the sound is really nice too, as you might expect from the dual front blasters here. They can get surprisingly loud, but they also get pretty tinny at the higher volumes. Still, I think these speakers are better than basically any other handheld anywhere close to this price point. I would say that in terms of hardware, the A380 is really impressive for the price. On the other hand, the emulation software is nothing short of an absolute disaster. So right off the bat, you'll notice that nearly every retro game is stretched to full screen and has a filter applied that makes everything look really weird, blurry, and kind of painterly. It's not terrible, but it's probably not how you remember these retro games looking. Actually, when my wife saw me playing this for the first time, she immediately asked, why does it look like that? And I think that says a lot. There is zero customization here either. No settings to tweak at all, so if you want the native aspect ratio or a pixelized look, you're totally out of luck with the stock emulators. All you get is this pop-up menu for saving, quitting, and remapping controls. Well, at least we can remap the controls, right? Well, unfortunately not really. All this does is remap a face button to another face button. So if I'm playing a Mega Drive game and I want to map the C button, first I need to figure out what the C button is in-game, then I need to remap that button to another of the A380 controls. It might not be so bad with a simple system like the Mega Drive, but with a more intense console like say the N64, it becomes literally impossible to map your controls. With the N64, it is impossible to map the Z button. Yeah, it's bad. Really, really bad. And to add insult to injury, the default mapping for every single system is just terrible, often with primary buttons being relegated to the X or Y for no reason, or even the shoulder buttons. And often there's even missing buttons like the aforementioned Z on the N64. Anyway, user experience aside, the emulation performance itself for all the retro systems is pretty great. From Game Boy to NES and all the way to the Super Nintendo, everything works perfectly. Strangely though, when I first started playing, Game Boy Advance was perfect on every game, but for some reason, just while I was recording this footage, Sonic Advance was chugging specifically. Weird. However, I did find that arcade is the same. The performance is just temperamental. Sometimes everything plays just fine, but other times it chugs along. I'm positive there's enough power here to play most MAME 2003 games, so I'm not quite sure what they did to make it quite so bad. I'm guessing that ditching these Imbo emulators in favor of customized RetroArch will resolve a lot of these issues. It may actually be the filter itself that causes so much slowdown, but hey, we have no way to change it. Anyway, Neo Geo works pretty much perfectly in all the games I tested, including King of Fighters 2003. Although with this game, it was the first time I really looked at this filter and realized how horrible it can look. A beautifully created pixel art game like King of Fighters 2003 should not look this bad, and it really does look bad with that filter on. Anyway, now let's look at something else. What's this? N64, PS1, and even PSP? Well, alrighty then. N64 performance is actually very, very impressive. It's not going to win any awards, and there is generally a tangibly slow frame rate, but honestly, I'm just happy it works at all, and even then, it feels perfectly fun to play, especially with something like Super Smash Bros. I don't think it's unplayable by any means. Just set your expectations for some slowdown and jankiness and it's all good. F-Zero X runs more or less perfectly. Mario Kart 64 on the other hand is pretty slow. In general though, it's great to have any N64 at all at this price, and I just consider it a bonus. However, there are significant button mapping issues here. I literally could not play Tony Hawk because the jump button just wasn't mapped and I had no way to do so. So this game that they included on the SD card is literally unplayable. Anyway, PS1 as you might expect runs much better. It has perfectly smooth gameplay completely and utterly across the board. It looks absolutely great on this screen as well, even when stretched out like this. Even heavy hitters like Tekken 3 run absolutely perfect, and fast dynamic game like Twisted Metal is just perfect too. So far I have to say I'm very, very impressed with this device. It has decent build quality, good controls, and a very cool little screen. I think Russ from Retro Gamecore was right, the 5:3 aspect ratio is really great for retro gaming. However, there's one more system here by default, and that's PSP. As you can see, this is not a perfect experience, and it runs at a pretty slow frame rate. But I want to point out that this game, Soul Calibur Broken Destiny, is a very intensive PSP game, and that the GameMax A380 retails for around $50 or so on AliExpress. The fact that any PSP or any N64 runs at all is pretty darn remarkable, and I think this performance for PSP in particular is very, very respectable. Actually, I decided to change a few settings in the emulator here and eke out just a bit more performance, and I was pretty satisfied with what I got. I tested Ridge Racer 2, and I ended up playing for nearly 30 minutes while recording just because I was having fun. It's not scientific, but I call that at least playable. In short, I really do think the A380 in terms of raw performance is extremely good for its very low price, and the PSP performance really is proof of that. Unfortunately, there is a however, which is, while I was testing PSP, I found the single most bizarre design screw-up that I have ever seen on any device ever. It's one that is so baffling that it almost makes my head spin. See these very nice dual analog sticks complete with L3 and R3? Well, they are actually not really analog sticks at all. Each of the 4 directions here are directly hardwired into the D-pad and face buttons respectively, meaning that these analog sticks do not register as their own input and cannot be mapped as left and right sticks. The left stick is always the same as the D-pad, and the right stick is always the same as the ABXY face buttons. This is a physical limitation and cannot be changed. Oh, and L3 and R3 click, but they're not even wired in at all, so they never do anything. I even opened this device up and followed the traces and confirmed these findings on the board itself. I cannot fathom in what possible scenario this setup was accepted during the design phase. I swear it must have been more annoying from a design perspective to wire the inputs like this than to just implement them properly. It severely limits what types of games you can play. This includes almost all 3D PSP games to some extent, and Ape Escape on PS1 just to throw another out there. Something like Monster Hunter on PSP, which requires both the stick and the D-pad, is just impossible to play properly on the A380. It's just such a huge disappointment, and I really do not know why they did this. Alright, let's wrap this lengthy unboxing up with my overall first impressions of the GameMax A380. I will say before I go on, there is a lot more to explore on this device, and I have more videos coming up, especially as it pertains to RetroArch and other emulators. Anyway, my first impressions of this device were very positive. In fact, for the price, I think this might be the best dollar to performance device out there at around $50. The quality is also really nice for that low price. The 5:3 aspect ratio screen is great, and the front-facing speakers are just a blessing. They sound so good. I wish more devices would do this. I just get a really good feeling when I play games on this thing, really. I think that there is a lot of potential for this device from a performance point of view, and I look forward to tinkering with it more, especially given that you can switch into a more familiar Android launcher at will and install your own APKs, which means that we should be able to get RetroArch and other emulators and apps up and running. Actually, I know for a fact that we can, because I've done it on mine. I will be releasing a tutorial for this in the next couple of days, because there are many weird and quirky issues with the input on this device that, as far as I know, nobody has been able to fix until now. On the other hand of all of that, the stock launcher is absolutely horrible. Something as simple as adding my own ROMs to the launcher is a huge pain and beyond the ability of any non-technical person. It is also just super unintuitive to navigate. To make matters worse, working with the Android side required me to do some substantial and deeply technical legwork to even begin playing games on RetroArch or other emulators, due to its utterly bizarre Android implementation. What I'm saying is that this device is by no means a pick up and play device out of the box. I have a distinct feeling that this OS was dumped onto the device with very little actual testing or consideration. Then of course there's the analog sticks, which are by far the most distinct and disappointing element of the A380. These fake analog sticks really limit the heights that the GameMax A380 might have otherwise reached, and I really think it could have reached some very good heights. Alrighty, so that brings me to the end of this video. What do you think of the GameMax A380? Let me know in the comments below. If you're enticed, there are some links in the description for you to pick one up on either AliExpress or Amazon. And please note that if you already have a GameMax A380, I have tutorials coming for you soon which will resolve all the RetroArch woes. You know how the right hand side of the controls doesn't work? I'll make it work for you. Anyway, in the meantime, if you like my videos, please like, comment and subscribe. And I'd like to express my thanks again to Mikey for getting this device for me to test out, and for creating the amazing intro music. Please go to his Instagram and check out his YouTube channel. And of course, be sure to subscribe to mine and leave a like on this video too. Thank you very much for watching Retro Breeze, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.